This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Welcome to Orioles on the Verge. This is Zach Spedden, joined as always by Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens. And on tonight's episode, we have some promotions to break down as several of the Orioles' top prospects are jumping up to new levels this week. And while there are several pitchers making moves up, there are some notable position players as well, which we're going to highlight on tonight's episode. But I want to start with the highest move up the organization in terms of level, and perhaps the most notable of the transactions to happen this week, and that is the promotion of right-handed pitcher Trey Gibson from AA Chesapeake up to AAA Norfolk. Gibson has thrown 91 innings this year between High A Aberdeen and AA Chesapeake, has a 3.07 ERA, the 2.78 FIP, and a 2.36 xFIP to go on to 36% strikeout rate and a 8.5% walk rate. And he has seemingly gotten stronger along the way. After kind of an up and down start at Aberdeen, Gibson was dominant before getting promoted to the AA level, where he was seemingly better. And Nick, I will start with you here because this is kind of a return for Gibson, who is from the Hampton Roads area, to go up to Norfolk. You have been among the three of us calling for this promotion for a while. So what are your thoughts on Trey Gibson becoming kind of a rare Orioles pitching prospect to go three levels in one season?
Yeah, welcome back to Virginia, the best state in the country, at least the best Commonwealth. He is the best pitching prospect in this organization, and I don't think there's really any debating that much. Like last year, his first pro season was about just building him up after the year off, not pitching his final year at Liberty, 20-something innings on the Cape before the Orioles signed him. But in his build-up season, he went 92 innings, pitched across two levels, huge strikeout numbers, and then decided in that last month of the season to dial it up a little bit more. And you saw the velo go from 94 to 95 in the final month of the year after he's closing in on 100 innings. Like the guy, he got up to 99 last year with 7 feet of extension. It's explosive stuff. And this year now he's up to 91 innings already. 3 levels, like you mentioned, which is pretty fun to see a pitcher do this. We see hitters do it all the time, especially those first-year college guys. But to see a pitcher do this is quite fun, especially an arm as dominant as Gibson. But the strikeouts are up from 30% to 36%. The walk rate is down from 10% to 8.5%. He's 6'5", 230, 240 pounds, tall, sturdy arm, more than capable of being a durable starter who regularly works deep into outings and gets a ton of swing and miss like this. And I actually pulled this up, I missed this. I think, I can't remember if I read this originally or not, but John Muley in his article on Gibson in the Banner a couple weeks ago, this quote here from Jordy Henry, pitching coach in the Orioles system here, I loved the most. And he was talking about Gibson's, he has like 4 to 5 breaking balls now. And the quote from Muley's article was, Henry's approach with Gibson was unlike anyone else he's ever coached. And this is a quote from Henry. I'd never done this before, but it was kind of an exploratory pitch design phase in the offseason where we had like 3 new pitch options on the table. It was the gyro slider or death ball, the 2-seamer, and a new changeup. We tried all those grips starting in September. And then in the movement camp he went to and throughout the offseason, and really just found some grips we thought would work. When he initially tried all of them, there was something there with each of them. So they're like, we've got this high quality arm. Let's try all this stuff. Hopefully maybe one really takes off and one of those breaking balls becomes super dominant. And then hopefully we see flashes with another one. We'll work on that across 2025. And Gibson's like, oh, like do this and this. All right, done. Got it. What's next? Oh, now I just need to hit my spots. All right, done. Like what's next? He literally got promoted to AA. And if I get the game logs to load here, 6 innings, 1 hit, 1 run in his first start in Double A. Next outing, 5 2/3 innings, 1 hit, no runs. He tinkers a little bit, has some struggles for 2 straight starts. Since then, 33 innings, 3 earned runs, 7 walks, 43 strikeouts, and a promotion to Triple A. Like just dominant. There's no other word to describe it.
Yeah, kid's special. I do think there was some debate, maybe in June, I think between him, Michael Forret, and the guy Braxton Bragg. I'm like, he's hurt. Forget about him. Which is a shame that he did get hurt because he probably would have gone up the same time or maybe before Gibson here. But yeah, I think over the last month and a half, Trey's just put the nail in the coffin in the debate. It's clear as day. He seems to be just special when it comes to pitch design, like you said, because he had a really good interview on Steve Molesky's podcast where he's talking about, I have 4 sliders. I have the sweeper. I have the gyro type of slider. I have the death ball. And I have a cutter. I guess cutter could be either fastball or a slider, whatever. I guess it depends on how much it breaks. But if he's got 2 fastballs, he's got a changeup. Like, it seems like he can just do whatever he wants out there, and it's showing with the way the hitters respond. Yeah, his breaking stuff's ridiculous, but he's also got that fastball that I don't think it plays up. It's mid to high 90s. I know he touched 97 in his last start, and yeah, I can't wait to get this data on him and just really decide how much of the next Mike Messina he's going to be, because I kind of think that's where it's trending. And yeah, Orioles fans aren't ready for Trey Gibson. I know that much.
Yeah, I want to touch on that pitcher of the year discussion for a moment, because Braxton Bragg was the front runner for much of this season. Unfortunately, his injury is going to, obviously eat into the rest of 2025 and perhaps all of 2026. But taking a step back here, look at where Gibson ranks in some key areas in the Orioles farm system. Right now, he is 4th in innings pitched, behind only Cameron Weston, Thad Ward, and Nestor Herman among minor league pitchers. When it comes to strikeouts, he is tops in all of the farm system, 135. The next closest pitcher is Blake Money at 113. So there's a considerable gap there between first and second. And I don't really think at this point that you really have much of a discussion about who's going to win pitcher of the year. And that's no disrespect to some of the other guys that I think have made reasonably strong cases of their own. Nestor Herman, Michael Forret, who we're going to talk about in a few minutes. Even if you want to go a little bit further down, a guy like Ibro Cartaya, Blake Money's another name you could throw in there. But Gibson, for my money, not only statistically has been the best pitcher in the Orioles farm system this year, but because of everything we just mentioned with his repertoire, he's the top pitching prospect in the Orioles farm system. That's where we have him on our list right now, 4th overall, and the top pitcher in the farm system, 2 spots ahead of Michael Forret, the second highest ranked pitcher, and 6 overall on our list. And that's per our update last week. So everything for Gibson, I would say since the beginning of May, has just been trending in an upward direction.
Yeah. I was going to say, now I'm very interested now that he's in AAA, though, for a couple of things. And not to, like, we just spouted off all this greatness and gave him all his flowers. But with all that said, he is now entering a new career high in innings. 92 last year, he's at 91 this year. I mean, he should get to what? Do we think 120? Somewhere around that range here? We got a little bit of time. Like, I think low A and high A have 4 weeks left, just 4 series. That's it. But AAA runs through September 21st. So a little bit more time in AAA now. But we know, like, that strike zone is tighter than it's ever been before. We know it's the new ball that he's going to have to deal with, the major league ball. I'm very anxious to see how quickly he adjusts to AAA. If he takes off from the start, like, the legend is going to continue to grow here with Trey Gibson. But does he take a few starts to settle in? How do they use him? Do they let him go 6 innings, 7 innings deep like he has? He's got a couple 7-inning performances under his belt here in AA over the last couple weeks. But do they let him ride 6+ innings a start, or do they try to, like, piggyback him with somebody and try to limit his innings down the stretch to stretch him out the rest of the way? I'm interested in all that. But yeah, you talk about the data. I don't think any of us are ready to get that full look at the pitch data. And now that we're going to get the full StatCast look at Trey Gibson finally.
Yeah, and that's a good point. There definitely could be a bump in the road here. Not like I mean, it doesn't really change the way we see things because we saw with like Brandon Young where, when he first went up to AAA, there was definitely an adjustment. An offseason went by, and all of a sudden he's got the IVB back to where it was before AAA, and he's figured out AAA, and now he's trying to do the same thing in the major leagues. It could be the same for Gibson, or here let's just do the perfect scenario. He doesn't have a speed bump, and this guy's competing for a starting rotation spot in spring training 2026. But either way, I think it's going to be a great learning experience. Either he gets adjusted quickly and we get even more excited about him, or he takes his lumps and he knows what he's got to work with. And apparently he's pretty quick learner between seasons. So yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, and that's a good point to bring up here because it leads into something I was going to say, which is that with what we have left in the season, which is about a month, and Gibson maybe is going to throw another 20 to 25 innings, 30 max. I don't care that much about his baseline statistics at AAA over the next month, good or bad. I just want to see signs of adjustment to the level because you're right, Nick. It is harder, I think, now to make the jump from AA to AAA as a pitcher than it has ever been. Tighter strike zone, difference in the baseball. There's a lot of things that pitchers have to overcome now. So if Gibson goes out and the first 2 or 3 starts are kind of ugly, I'm not going to panic, especially if when I look at the data, which we can do now that he's at AAA, and I see that the pitches, the velocity, the movement is about what I would expect, I'm not going to worry.
Yeah, we're seeing it with Keegan Gillis right now. He's struggling mightily in AAA, but I don't think he's any less of a pitcher than he was when he was dominating AA. Maybe he had a little bit of good luck in double, a little bit of bad luck in triple, but he's clearly dealing with the smaller strike zone, a lot of walks that are unusual for him. So, yeah, I think Cameron Weston, we had a good debate in the Discord with Tommy Carr. Just why is his strikeout numbers have gone down a little bit. Walks have definitely gone up. But as someone who has watched a lot of the games, Tommy said, I think his control is just the same as it ever was. It's just that strike zone is ridiculous. So, yeah, it's something to contend with. That's for sure.
Let's go now to Michael Forret, who's making the jump up from Aberdeen to Chesapeake. And this is a move we have been waiting for a while. Forret got off to a dominant start at Aberdeen this season before being placed on the IL with a back injury. And when he returned from that injury, really showed no signs of rust at all. And while the Orioles basically eased him back in from the time that he returned to the mound on June 4th, he was flat out dominant with the Ironbirds after missing about a month's worth of action. And overall there, Forret had 59 2/3 innings pitched this season with a 1.51 ERA, 2.50 FIP, 2.73 xFIP to go with a 33.5% strikeout rate and a 7.5% walk rate. This is a promotion that we've been calling for quite a while. We haven't really been sure why it wasn't happening, but perhaps it was just that one domino, in which case the promotion of Trey Gibson up to AAA needed to fall for Forret to get that move. But nonetheless, Forret able to make the jump up to AA now. And just to put a little bit more context behind his post-injury return, Forret has appeared in 11 games since returning in his first outing on June 4th. In that time period, he struck out 47 batters over 38 innings, held opposing hitters to a 169 average, and posted a 1.42 ERA. And if you want to go for a really eye-popping stat here, opposing hitters OPS against him in that time period, 452. So this is someone that has just been dominating the competition at high A. He's now going to get a look at AA. And Bob, I'm going to start with you here. This promotion was really obvious, and it probably could have happened sooner, but nonetheless, very exciting, very happy to see Forret going to AA.
Yeah, he's making hitters look like Greg Allen out there in high A. Yeah, it's about time. I mean, I get it because there is that log jam, especially AA. You know, I keep a list throughout the season of guys to watch and their numbers and stuff. And AA is definitely a longer list than a lot of the other teams when it comes to pitching. And he's on the younger side, whereas guys like Bragg and Gibson are a little bit older compared to him. So I kind of get it, but at the same time, he was just dominating for all season, basically. Yeah, he's something else. He's another guy I feel like that adapts really well because he added the death ball as well, and it's working for him. He had a quote somewhere that was like, I feel like things are starting to click now, and it's like, oh, just now, okay. So he's up in Double A now. They were clearly managing his innings. I don't know if it was strictly because of the back injury or because they said, here's the goal we're trying to get to, and here's how many up downs we want him to have. But he definitely was a little bit babied in the middle of the season, especially coming back from that injury. But hopefully now he's able to at least go out there and throw 5 innings each outing with Double A, and can't wait to see what he can do there too.
That's the biggest thing for me. Like, first and foremost, the fact that he's getting promoted now, I think should mean health wise we're all good, because we talked about this last week too. He missed a month, closer to 5 weeks, I think, earlier this year because of the back issue. Came back the first week of June, and remember, no rehab outings. They didn't send him to Sarasota. They didn't even send him to Delmarva. He went straight back into Aberdeen's rotation, but it was like 1 inning, 2 innings, 3 innings, like slowly building him back up. And then it was 4 shutout innings. Like, all right, he's back. But then it was back down to 2 and 3 inning outings, then back up to 4 and 5. And so it was just this up and down and up and down. So I don't know. Maybe there were some lingering effects with the back. Maybe they're just being cautious. Again, no idea. But he never really seemed to be like fully unleashed since coming off the IL. But I just think, yeah, you're bumping up to Double A now where the innings are going to be more stressful than they were in High A. So I think health-wise, we should be good. Should be in the clear because, yeah, statistically, I mean, Forret is standing right there, right behind Trey Gibson. Even with the limited innings, his numbers are going blow for blow at Trey Gibson. And like Trey Gibson, the strikeouts are way up, the walks are way down. 10% walk rate last year. That's down to sub 8% this year. And also like Gibson, where like the immediate adjustments to his repertoire were there. Like you just talked about, revamped the breaking stuff, added a lot of weight as soon as the Orioles drafted him because he was this tall, skinny JUCO kid, found instant success while throwing more strikes and doing a better job of commanding it all in the zone. And the results have followed. And so like both of these guys, we're not talking about incremental gains with these two arms. It's been like fairly significant gains. And I think given their histories, Gibson, the undrafted kid out of Liberty who didn't pitch his final year, and then Michael Forret being the JUCO kid, later round draft pick, given those histories, like to see where they are now is phenomenal to watch. Like, and this is what we're talking about when people are like, God, the pitching prospects in the system and what the Orioles are lacking. Like this is what they're doing. These are the guys they are creating. And I am every single outing I watch with so much intent because I cannot wait for one of these guys to truly break out at the major league level and finally like put that stamp on this. Is like this is what the Orioles are able to do with the pitching prospects. Like this is why we harp on it so much and pay attention so much to these arms, because nobody was drafting this kid. Nobody wanted Trey Gibson. Orioles took him, and now look where he's at. So,
yeah, and that logjam we talk about now, it's bubbling up. Next year, it's going to be at AAA. It's going to be Trey Gibson, Cameron Weston, rest in peace, Braxton Bragg, Nestor Erman, Joanne Watts Brown, Blake Money, Michael Forret at some point. Like these guys are hitting AAA, AA, upper minors, and yeah, that's going to be huge. I wish it could have been a year sooner because that would have helped this season for sure for the Orioles. But it is what it is, and they're here. They're arriving at AAA, which is obviously one step away from the majors. One opportunity, one injury, boom, they come in, they take a hold of the reins, and it's not all of our hopes are just on Trey Gibson and Michael Forret. There is a huge group of pitchers bubbling up in the upper minors that are going to be helping the Orioles for a long time.
Absolutely. We'll move on now to a position player of note that was promoted, and that's Nate George, who is reaching his 3rd level of the season as he gets to jump from Delmarva to Aberdeen. George got off to a torrid start in the FCL this year, and after a pretty brief stint there was promoted to Low A, where most nights he looked like the best player on the field, posting on 164 WRC plus and 186 plate appearances with the Shorebirds, and doing this at a very young age, having been drafted out of high school last year. I think the fact that George went 3 levels this year is in and of itself a huge accomplishment for someone who's 19 years old. And honestly, a guy that if he had put up 775 to 800 OPS in the FCL this year and that had been it, we would have been happy with that season. But he has accomplished so much this year. And Nick, I'll start with you. I think you can pick apart George's game any way you want. You can look at the power, you can look at the hit tool, you can look at the strikeouts being a little high, maybe the walks a little bit too low, the inefficiency when it comes to stolen bases. But there are 5-ish tools here to work with, and what seems to be a very high ceiling. So, what are your thoughts on George getting this bump up to Aberdeen?
Was not expecting this one at all. We just sat here last week doing the top 50 update and talked about Nate George and Esteban Mejia specifically, and how these are both two incredible prospects with ceilings that are so much fun to sit here and dream on who they can become. But they're both teenagers in low A with a lot of growth and development to go. And so let's be excited, but let's be patient. And the Orioles were just like, bet you want to be patient. All right, we're moving him up to high A. As a 19-year-old, he doesn't turn 20 until next June. So if he keeps trending like this, he could be in Double A or very close to Double A as a 19-year-old still. Like, that's pretty awesome to see. So are we still going to remain calm after all this? It depends on these next 4 weeks, because this promotion was completely earned. And you talk about the hesitations in his game, but he's got 4 weeks now, and let's see how those areas progress. He only hit 1 home run in 43 games with Delmarva, but he had 8 doubles and 7 triples. And he's already traded in a big chunk of those ground balls he was hitting in the FCL for more line drives. 55% ground ball rate in the FCL, that dropped to 38% in Delmarva. That entire difference went towards his line drive rate. So I have full confidence that this is trending towards more home runs in the future. And just the hit tool in general, like coming out of the draft, that was one of the bigger questions with George. He really didn't face a ton of elite competition, didn't have a ton of experience out on the showcase circuit and all that. So a lot of question marks about when he gets into a pro system, how is he going to fare against stronger pitchers? And we don't have the granular data that I would love to be able to look at here with the low A guys, but an 80% contact rate and sub 10% swing and strike rate are good initial signs. I'd love to look at more specifics. Just looking at the information we have here, that's pretty solid. And he's a year and a half younger than the average player in low A right now. So 64% above league average at the plate. And that doesn't even begin to address the defense. But yeah, expectations for me for the rest of this year, again, it's just 4 weeks left. I'm just going to enjoy the ride. I'm not putting any firm expectations on stats I want to see or anything like that. I'd love to see him be a little bit more efficient on the base paths. Maybe see if he can start tapping into a little bit more of that over the fence power over these last couple of weeks. But honestly, he's 19 years old. He's in high A, 3 levels, 16th round draft pick that no one had heard of coming into the draft. And here we are now. He's on top 100 prospect list. So I just want to enjoy the ride for those 4 weeks. He's in Aberdeen this year.
Yeah, I'm going to guess that the numbers under the hood, the analytics are pretty strong because, 81st on the Baseball America top 100 now, 33rd on Prospects Live's Ross Jensen's personal top 100 list. I want to get out to Aberdeen one more time this year at least to see him hit a gap and just cruise in for a triple. That is a big outfield. I could see him having definitely some hustle doubles and triples in the next couple of weeks, but man, what a rise. And it's funny that I'm not going to call this person out, but someone was like, I thought, Nate George was really popping off in FCL and he kind of quieted down in low A. And I'm like, man, how fast expectations change, because he had around 9% walk rate in FCL, about the same in Delmarva. He had a 16% strikeout rate in FCL, about the same in Delmarva. ISO is slightly down, mostly because he hit a couple home runs in the FCL, and those translated to doubles and triples in low A, like Nick said. And the WRC plus was 179 to 164. So basically the same player at the 2 different levels. And we'll see if he can have a WRC plus over 110 even, or 100 in Aberdeen. That's pretty damn impressive. 19 years old and only 2 months. Yeah, he's a breakout. There's no doubt about it. Big time breakout prospect.
And he's joining at the right time because Aberdeen is coming off this huge week. We're going to talk about one player in particular later on in a minute here that had a big week. Like now they get to add just this electric player and personality in Nate George. We said coming into the year that Aberdeen was going to be the affiliate to watch, and then they were the affiliate that really struggled this year and really made us the most frustrated. But now these last couple of weeks, it's back to Aberdeen is must watch TV for many reasons. If you want to get out to the ballpark one last time before they're part of the draft league and no longer part of the organization, and you also get to see a lineup full of some pretty exciting prospects now, or at least guys who are starting to hit their stride here at the end of the year, which better late than never.
Yeah, not only are the Ironbirds getting a little bit more interesting with the addition of George and then some of their hitters stepping up, which we're going to talk about in a moment here, but Delmarva's roster is getting an influx of new prospects thanks to the assignment of several players that were included in the most recent draft class, headlined by the Orioles' first pick this year, Ike Iris. And Nick, I think you have the full rundown there from Rock Cabato over at Masson, but we're looking at about 6 players, Iris, Vahia, Loy, Caden Bodine among them, expected to get to bump up to Delmarva this week after a short stint in the FCL. Technically, the FCL is not in the regular season anymore, but there are still games going on down there. So after a little bit of a tune-up, these guys getting to jump up to Delmarva.
Yep, Ike Irish, Caden Bodine, Wahiva Loy, RJ Austin, Colin Yeaman, and Braden Smith, the fun utility type player out of Oklahoma State. Yeah, of course, excited to see what Ike Irish can do. Excited to see where he plays. I imagine he's probably like DH outfield. I wonder how much run they're going to give him behind the plate, if any, these last couple of weeks. But Irish, ready to see that bat on display, same as Bodine, ready for everybody to see that hit tool on display. I'm honestly, though, I'm most excited, intrigued, I'll say. I'm most excited to see the top guys, of course, but I'm most intrigued, honestly, to see RJ Austin. I'm happy that they're giving him some early run here because this was the guy that I mentioned last week. He didn't crack our top 50, but I threw out at the end of the show, like, I think we might be like highly disrespecting RJ Austin right here. There's something. I have this feeling. As much as I watched him at Vanderbilt and saw that, yeah, he flashed the tools and yeah, all the underlying data looks good, but just the numbers weren't there at Vanderbilt the last couple of years. The Orioles went aggressive with RJ Austin for a reason. So I'm hoping we see at least a flash of that reason over these last couple of weeks. But yeah, I know a lot of people are very impatiently waiting for these guys to probably make their debuts, but they're here. We don't know which day. I don't think Rock or anybody reported exactly which day. I didn't see that, but we're here. They're starting to trickle in.
Yeah, I would imagine it's tomorrow, but could certainly be wrong. The Orioles love messing with our predictions by like one day on purpose, like calling up a guy on a Thursday or a Saturday. But hopefully it's tomorrow because I'm looking forward to watching that game. And honestly, I'm a little nervous about the repercussions of 6 players getting added to Delmarva, but that's a different discussion. Just, yeah, I want to see these guys in a lineup in a quote-unquote Orioles uniform, Shorebirds uniform, and start falling in love with these guys and make our official assessments. And I think Colin Yeaman is probably the guy I'm like outside of the top guys. Like Nick said, I am excited to watch just because, man, he seems like he could be a guy that flies up our charts here as he gets comfortable in the system. Just seemed like a really fun player. See if he can do it at the pro level like he did at the college level.
Yeah, and just for reference, going back to last week's episode when we updated our top 50, currently Ike Iris ranks 3rd in the farm system, Wahia Aloy is 5th, Caden Bodine is 11th, and then Colin Yeaman down at number 36. So pretty decent influx of players coming here. The Shorebirds, by the way, are on the road this week for a series at Lynchburg. For those that check out MILB TV, Lynchburg's got a pretty decent center field camera angle, as I recall. So might be worth checking out a Shorebirds game if you get a chance. And then next week, Delmarva returns home to begin a series against Kannapolis on August 19th.
Yeah, closer to me, but close, but little too far. So I don't know if I'll be able to make it out, but they've got their pitching rotation for the week. Looks like already set as well. it's every single night is going to be must watch down there for Delmarva. It's fun times.
Rattle it off if you have it.
Oh, I lost. I think tomorrow night's Twine Palmer. I'm trying to go off memory. Tuesday's Twine Palmer. Then Bateman, I think,
Tuesday with Twine.
Yeah, Bateman's going. Mejia's on Sunday. So if you're ready to come down to Lynchburg on Sunday, that's Esteban Mejia. I think Keeler Morphe's Saturday. I think it was the same rotation as last week. I think they're repeating it again. But
oh, that was one thing I wanted to mention when we were talking about Nate George, is another guy who we were proceeding with caution or saying, don't get too excited. 2 starts into Esteban Mejia's Delmarva career, and I'm starting to get pretty excited. I'm not going to lie. It's becoming more real the more we see him in a full season organization.
Yeah, and I plan to talk about this a little bit more in our next episode when we wrap up the FCL, but I did get a chance to see Mejia start on Sunday and came away pretty impressed. So we'll have a little bit more on that then, but Mejia is certainly off to a strong start at Delmarva. And with that, now we will head into our final segment of this episode. Last call, brought to you by Checker Spot Brewing, located at 1421 Ridgely Street. Checker Spot is not far from Camden Yards, making it the perfect place for a pre- or post-game drink. And when you're at the ballpark this year, be sure to check out the beer stand behind home plate for one of Checker Spot's signature beers, The Bird is the Word. And in this episode, we're going to do our usual shout-out of players outside the top 30 portion of our top 50 for something they've done recently, whether it's been a good game, a good week, or just something interesting in their stat line that we want to note. And I want to start with Bob here because the hitter he's going to highlight is a guy that you would not have thought coming into the season would qualify for this segment at any point. You certainly hope that he wouldn't have, but yet he's here, and we might have seen, we hope, the beginning of a little bit of a renaissance last week.
Yeah, I think if this was, I'm going to hold off on saying who it is. If this was just a random week in August and didn't precede a mysterious ankle injury followed by a complete stance change when he came back, Vance Honeycutt is my under or below the top 30 prospect player of the week because, yeah, he missed 2 weeks for I'm going to say quote unquote ankle injury. Maybe that he had a sore ankle, but clearly was working on stuff behind the scenes because his stance was completely different. I've been calling him revamped stance Vance ever since. And yeah, he timed that with hitting the ball for power, being a little more aggressive at the plate, which is what we've been hoping to see from him. He was 9 for 22 on the week, 407 batting average, 1136 OPS. He had 2 doubles, a triple, a home run, and 4 stolen bases, 318 ISO, a 224 WRC plus. Now, he didn't walk. He struck out 31% of the time still. And, BABIP was pretty high. So that's clearly, some luck involved as well. But it's what you want to see from a guy who I had completely out of my top 50. And if he keeps this up for the rest of this month, maybe I'm going to have to put him back in there somewhere, maybe close to where you guys had him. But it's just great to see a flash of life, if anything else. Now we can cling to hope based on this week alone. What do you guys think before I go into my pitchers?
I'm not getting excited yet, but I will say it was very nice to see him put together some really good at-bats. And even if the home run, it wasn't like a 2-strike slider on the out third of the corner that he sent the other way. Like I think it was kind of like a meatball pitch, but he was swinging and missing a lot of those all year. So like, it's just good to see, even if it's just a confidence boost. Like I don't care who they were playing. Just the fact that he put those numbers up last week across the board, that entire Aberdeen lineup for the most part, and the top prospects who we've been frustrated with showed out last week. And some of those guys have been showing out for a little bit longer than just a week. So I'll take signs of life at the end of year one. It's a lot better than him continuing to kind of just straggle his way through the end of the year. And then we're left like, what the hell is going on, man? But
yeah, I want to believe. I'm not getting too far ahead of myself. I did like to see the batting stance adjustment, but I want to believe. And like Nick said, anything that can help to get Honeycutt's confidence back up over what's left of this season and hopefully go into high A again next year, feeling like he's overcome the hurdles that he faced for most of this year, he could get himself right back on track. That's probably the best case scenario we could hope for now.
Yeah, that sounds good. About right. And I super cheated for my pitchers. I'm going with 3 relief pitchers in Delmarva, same bullpen. And the reason I wanted to highlight these 3 guys, other than just being able to highlight 3 guys, is I think there potentially could be an organizational philosophy shift here. I think we saw it. We talked about it a little bit at the trade deadline. We're targeting more reliever-specific prospects where, and again, this is a whole nother can of worms, but going to have to learn how to evaluate pure relief prospects when comparing them to other guys because I have a hard time with that. But just seems like between Tyson Neighbors, Micah Ashman, obviously, I mean, that's kind of just a throw in to get from Charlie Morton, but the Mets trade for Cedric Mullins, it was a bunch of relievers. And I think these guys like Joe Glassy, Andy Fabian, and Jacob Stretch could be, along the same lines where Andy Fabian, he was starting games, if I'm not mistaken, last year. This year, strictly out of the bullpen, and it's pretty impressive. As a result, in the FCL before his promotion to Low A Aberdeen, he had a 34.7% strikeout rate, 16% walk rate. Yeah, that's high. But if you're striking out that many guys, it helps a little bit. 2.12 ERA to a 2.63 FIP. And then after his promotion to A ball, full season ball, 45% strikeout rate, 15% walk rate. So walk rate dropped by 1%, but he still has a 30% strikeout to walk ratio, 1.74 ERA, 1.80 FIP, and he's getting 61.5% ground balls for the Shorebirds as well. So, yeah, I think the funky lefty with the never going to work with this delivery, according to Keith Law, but he's doing something right because Andy Fabian, who I will say Zach has been all over since last season, he's looking like a pretty darn good relief prospect. Shout out Yaki Rivera in AA as well. Joe Glassy, on the other hand, 24 years old and started the season hurt, but pretty notable that in his 25 2/3 innings pitched since becoming a member of the Orioles organization, he has 28 strikeouts and 1 walk. Yes, 1 walk. And that came this season in the FCL as he was working his way back. Combined this season between Delmarva and the FCL, he had a 1.50 ERA, 3.16 FIP, 2.47 xFIP over 18 innings, 31% strikeout rate, 1.5% walk rate. Yeah, last year he had 7 2/3 innings pitched, 7 strikeouts, no walks. So the command is definitely not an issue for Joe Glassy. And it's kind of similar for Jacob Stretch, at least on the walk side. Since he's become a Shorebird, it's 3 2/3 innings, but no walks yet. Combined between A-ball and FCL, he's only pitched, I want to say 8 innings this year, but he has a 37.8% strikeout rate, 13.5% walk rate, 0 ERA, 2.16 FIP, and he's holding batters to a 156 batting average against. So just some guys. Luis Beltran also in that Delmarva bullpen. So let's become the Cleveland Guardians when it comes to relief pitching prospect.
Yeah. You bring that up, and you're adding off these names, and look at how those guys were acquired. They're building those guys also the same way they're building the Major League bullpen and finding these hidden gems on the waiver wire. So they're picking the 22-year-old guy out of the Dominican, giving him $5,000, probably $50, and Andy Fabian, Jacob Stretch, Glassy, all UDFAs. Like,
yep,
fun. Yeah, I had to pull this. I like Jacob Stretch a lot because he's so in college he was 92 to 93, but 20 inches of induced vertical break and like 6.7 feet of extension. Yeah. So Jacob Stretch is a lot of fun to watch. So yeah, a lot of good shout outs. A lot of good shout outs this week, as we typically do. I've always loved this segment. I actually, thinking about it, we don't get a lot of feedback on this segment, so I don't know if people actually like it or not, but we like it, so we've been doing it for 4 years now. No one said stop doing it, so we keep doing it. But yeah, I also like to use this segment. We kind of find the FCL guys, the DSL guys, to kind of start planting the seeds of guys that we think are all right. These could be somebody. And so for my hitters, I wanted to bring back 2 guys who we've mentioned a couple of times. I think all 3 of us have probably mentioned one or the other at least once. But wanted to bring them back as the DSL season starts to wrap up a little bit. But Lissandro Sanchez down in the DSL, both these guys are DSL bats. But Lissandro Sanchez in the DSL, he hit 438 last week with 3 doubles. And Starlin Miesis, he hit 364 with a home run, 7 walks, and 2 strikeouts in 4 games. Both guys are having fantastic years in the DSL. They're not the big name guys, the big roster or big signing bonus guys, but they're having great seasons. Been able to watch a lot of them on the YouTube streams. Lissandro Sanchez was an all-star this year for the DSL Orioles. So loud exit velos, good contact. Just intrigued by both of those guys to see what they do in the FCL. And who knows, maybe one or both are guys we're in consideration for our top 50 next year. TBD, but just keep those guys and names in the back of your mind. And on the pitching side, I mentioned this name. I feel like every time I did our Patreon exclusive weekly recap episode, every time I did it, I felt like Brandon Downer was doing a rehab outing in the FCL. Draft pick last year, started this year on the injured list and missed pretty much the entire year. So we have never seen him pitch professionally. He got to Delmarva last week, finally got the call. It went a relief outing, but it was 4 2/3 relief innings, allowed 1 hit, no runs, no walks, and 8 strikeouts. And of course, I kept saying in every one of those Patreon episodes that I was stoked and excited to see what he could do in Delmarva. See if we add him to the long list of intriguing pitching prospects in this system. See if it's there or not. And of course, Delmarva's camera decided to be crap that night. And we did not get the center field view. We had a terrible view in that game. So couldn't make much of the stuff, but it was like a tease. I have to wait a little bit longer this week. Maybe that'll be the night that I drive down to Lynchburg to actually watch him for myself. But it was a great first start, and hopefully he's able to build on that over these last 3-4 outings that he gets. But yeah, and real quick, you mentioned the name as well, but Tyson Neighbors, just shout him out as well. 2 1/3 scoreless innings this week with a pair of strikeouts. Gave me all the flashbacks watching him pitch at Kansas State, except now he's evolved into what should be a AAA arm. And yeah, if you like Teddy Sharkey, if you haven't watched Tyson Neighbors pitch yet, but you've watched Teddy Sharkey pitch and you fell in love, here you go. The Orioles brought him back and said, here we go. We got the evolved version. We got the Charizard version of Teddy Sharkey right here. Like, this is a lot of fun. Made Travis Bazzana look like a low A ball player, not a guy who was weirdly just promoted to AAA for Cleveland, but that's another podcast episode.
Good picks from both of you this week. I'm going to start with my hitter, and it's another trade deadline acquisition. That's Brandon Butterworth. Butterworth came over from the Padres in the Ryan O'Hearn, Ramon Laureano deal. He went, after putting up solid numbers at high A Fort Wayne and San Diego system, comes over to the Orioles and goes right to Double A, and he made a splash there last week, going 8 for 28, belting 2 home runs. And what is interesting to me is that this is yet another player that is exceeding his stolen base totals from college. We've kind of seen this in the past. Billy Cook, I think, got a little bit more aggressive when he came into the Orioles system. And Butterworth this year, now granted, 13 of these 17 stolen bases were with the Padres. 17 stolen bases this season in 19 attempts. His career high in college was 13 with NC State last year. Last week alone, he went 4 for 4 in stolen base attempts. I'm sure the Roberto Mercado effect is in play right now, and Butterworth will steal 30 bases in the remaining weeks of this season, but that, I don't know whether or not Butterworth, who did not make our top 50 last week, is a guy that we should be excited about or not going forward, but either way, last week was a lot of fun to watch. And then my pitcher this week is actually another trade deadline acquisition, albeit in a different trade, and that's Cameron Foster, who came over from the Mets in the Gregory Soto deal. If you look at Foster's numbers right now at AAA Norfolk, they're pretty ugly, but he had a really bad outing 2 weeks ago against Memphis that has really inflated those numbers. Rebounded, put together a pretty solid pair of outings last week. 2 innings combined between those 2 appearances with 1 unearned run, 3 strikeouts, and the fastball, when you look at the data, looks pretty good right now, consistently hitting 95 with it. He did touch 97 in his outing on August 7th, so he can run the fastball up there in the mid to upper 90s, mixes that in with a cutter, a curveball, and a slider. It was interesting because of the 2 outings that he had last week, the outing on the 7th, he was more curveball heavy, and then he came back on the 9th and relied on the slider a little bit more. I don't know what to make of that, but it's going to be interesting to see how he mixes and matches those pitches going forward. But Foster, in what's kind of a pivotal month for him, being a guy that is Rule 5 eligible at the end of this year, with, I think, a legitimate chance at making the 40-man roster, put together a solid week last week. So good production from him, and hopefully he's able to build on that.
My philosophy when looking at Norfolk Tide's stats or watching Norfolk Tide's games, whenever they play Memphis, the stats don't matter. Those games are anomalies, and you can just throw those stats out the window. So he's doing a fantastic job.
And it has been that way for years. I remember one series there in 2021. I don't think there was a pitcher that got out of that without their ERA being above 6. Kyle Braddis included.
Yeah, that first series, I think that was probably the first time they started playing that season, because they've added a couple new teams that they've been playing this year. But yeah, anyway, the Memphis series, not fun games to watch.
I am loving watching Brandon Butterworth. He's syrupy sweet out there, if you will. There's got to be a really good nickname for him down the pike. But yeah, I don't know how the numbers for the Padres were good. He looks great, gets promoted to AA, and just does not miss a beat. I don't know how excited to get about him, but I'm certainly loving watching him play.
Absolutely. And with that, that does it for this episode. We're going to be back later on this week to recap everything that went on down in the FCL this season. You're not going to want to miss that. In the meantime, you can check out our many social media channels, including Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, and Blue Sky. We're also over at Substack, OriolesOnTheVerge.substack.com. And while you're browsing around the internet, be sure to head over to Patreon and sign up to become a member today. You can join the $3, $5, or $10 levels and have access to bonus weekly episodes from Bob, Nick, and myself, as well as monthly updates to our top 50 list and patron-exclusive channels within our Discord. So you're not going to want to miss that. For Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens, this is Zach Spen. You've been listening to Orioles on the Verge, part of the Believe Podcast Network.
If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing, which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.